Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, or whenever the heck you're watching this. I guess maybe it's the evening. I hope you've been enjoying our thrilling Math 9 videos. Today, we're going to continue on with solving equations. So that's what we've been doing the last couple lessons. In this one, we're going to have a unique situation where we're going to solve equations where there's variables on both sides of the equation, on both sides of the equal sign. Remember, variables means letters. Also, just a reminder that for solving, our goal is to get the letter or the variable by itself. In the previous lessons, what we had one-step equations where it was pretty simple. You just had to add or subtract or multiply or divide. And then in 6.2, we had more complex ones where we had to maybe do some multiplying, adding, subtracting, dividing, all in one question. And this one's a little bit more unique, a little harder because now we have letters on both sides of the equal sign. Where in those previous questions, the letters were always only on the left side or on the right side. To show you what I mean, if you look down at example 1, we have this polynomial, 5n plus 9, equals this binomial over here. And you'll notice that the letter n, the variable, is on both sides of the equation. When that happens, my strategy is the first thing I want to do is get all the letters on one side of the equation. So I either want these 5 n's to move to the other side, or I want these 2 n's to get to the other side. But I somehow want to join them together and get them both on the same side of the equal sign. I typically will make a decision based on the coefficient of those variables. So if I look at this question, I have 5n and I have 2n. Whichever one has less, I'm going to move to the other side. That usually helps me stay with positive numbers, and positive numbers are easier to work with. So for me, my first step would be I want to take those 2 n's and I want to move them to the left side of the equation somehow. The way we do that is by using opposite operations. That 2n is currently a plus 2n being added to 21. So if we wanted to move that 2n to the other side, we would subtract 2n from both sides of the equation. That's me doing something. After I do something, I always reorganize my work. So on the left-hand side, we have 5n minus 2n. That leaves me with 3 n's. My plus 9 is a constant. It has not changed, so I leave it as plus 9. And then it equals, the 2n minus 2n would equal 0. They would cancel out, and I would only be left with my plus 21. I'm not going to put the plus symbol, but you know that it's a positive 21. Perfect. We've now successfully moved all of our letters to one side, which means this is now a 6.2 type question where I just have to get the letter by itself. To do that, I have to move things away from the letter n. The first thing I always move is any additions or subtractions. So this plus 9, I'm going to move by subtracting 9 from both sides. I then reorganize my work. So on the left-hand side, oh, I accidentally had my eraser out there. On the left-hand side, the 9's would cancel out, and I would be left with just the 3n equals. On the right-hand side, I have 21 minus 9. That equals 12. So remember, after we do something, we move something, we always reorganize our work. It keeps us kind of linear and organized, which is huge when it gets to higher level math. Our last step is now to get that 3 to the other side. That's a 3 times n. The opposite of timesing is dividing, so we divide both sides by 3, giving me a final answer of n equals 4. Perfect. We'll do B, so if we go to the right, we'll do B together, and then I'll let you try C on your own, and then we'll do a few more together. So if you look at B, the first thing I recognize is that I have 2 different n's. I have 4n on the left side, I have 9n on the right side. I somehow have to get all those n's to the same side of the equation. I decide that whichever one has the least number of n's is the one I'm going to move. So this 4n has less than the 9n, so I'm going to try to move that 4n to the other side of the equation somehow. The way we do that is by using opposite operations. That is a plus 4n, so I need to subtract 4n from both sides. And that's how I move my letters from one side to the other. I then do something and I reorganize. So I have 4n minus 4n would cancel out. I have 6 left over. And then I have equals 5n plus 21. It's 5n because 9n minus 4n would be 5n. Once you've done that, you've successfully gotten all the n's on one side. You now just have to get n by itself. This becomes a 6.2 question. If you're struggling with that still, so if you got to this stage of a question you couldn't solve it, I would recommend that you go back to 6.2 and maybe watch some of those so you remember how to get things isolated. The first thing I have to move is the plus 21 by doing opposite operations. So I subtract 21 from both sides. I then reorganize my work. So on the left-hand side, 6 minus 21 would be negative 15 equals 5n. I now have to get the 5 away from that n. That's 5 times n. The opposite of timesing is dividing. So I divide both sides by 5. Negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3 equals n. Awesome. For C, I would like you to try C on your own. So pause the video and just see if you can solve this question C all on its own. Okay, to solve this one, hopefully you paused and tried this. To solve this one, I'm going to decide to move the negative 2n's to the other side. The reason I'm choosing to move those ones is because 8 is bigger than negative 2. Moving that negative 2 is tricky. Because that is technically like minus 2n, what we want to do is we want to add 2n to both sides. This will cancel out with the negative 2n on the right side, and then on the left side, 8 plus 2 is 10n. So I now have 10n plus 10 equals negative 20. And then again, I can start solving by doing opposite operations. I need to move the plus 10 first. So I subtract 10 from both sides. That gives me 10n equals negative 30. And then I have to divide both sides by 10. Giving me n equals negative 3. Hopefully you got that right. Awesome. If we look over at D, D is unique. It's something different that we haven't done yet. And the reason it's unique is because there's brackets. If you remember from 6.2, we also had questions with brackets. And our strategy when we saw brackets was to get rid of the brackets. The best way that we can get rid of the brackets is by expanding. What I mean by expanding is you take whatever's in front of the bracket and you multiply it into the brackets. It's called distribution. We've done that in previous units. So we're going to multiply that 5 in to become 5n plus 15. And then I'm also going to do that on the other set of brackets. So I have a 4 in front of the bracket. I need to multiply that 4 to both things. 4 times n becomes 4n. 4 times negative 11 becomes negative 44. Once I've gotten rid of the brackets, this is just like the other 3 questions we've done. I'm going to move the 4n to the other side because 4 is less than the 5n on the left. And then I'm going to reorganize my work. 5n minus 4n leaves me with 1n. I don't have to write the 1 in front, so I just put n. So I have n plus 15 equals negative 44. I now want to get n by itself, so I subtract 15 from both sides. That'll cancel on the left, leaving me with just an n on the left side of the equal sign. On the right side, negative 44 minus 15 becomes negative 59. That means n equals negative 59. Wonderful. So brackets aren't that big of a deal. You just multiply in to get rid of the brackets, and then you solve like a regular question. We got 2 more here. I'll do E with you, and then I would like you to pause and try F on your own. If we look at E, we have brackets. The first thing we have to do with brackets is get rid of them by multiplying whatever's in front into them. This first set of brackets right here is tricky. So sometimes people make a mistake and they multiply the 6n in. The 6n is not what's in front of the brackets. So remember that you only want to multiply something that's touching the bracket. That 6n is not touching the bracket because there's a negative symbol in between it. There's negative right here. Instead, what we have to remember is that if there's nothing in front of a bracket, there's an invisible 1 in front of that bracket. So for us, what we need to do is multiply the negative 1 into the brackets. That would give me 6n still. And then negative 1 times positive 5 becomes negative 5n. And then negative 1 times positive 5 becomes minus 5. That's probably the trickiest thing you'll see is you'll see those brackets with nothing in front and a negative sign. And you have to realize that's a -1 that needs to be multiplied in. On the right side, we have another set of brackets. This time it's -2 that needs to be multiplied into the brackets. That leaves me with -8 minus 2n minus 24. After we expand brackets, we remember from 6.2 that sometimes you get like terms. So if you look on the left side of the equation, you'll notice we have like terms. We have 6n minus 5n. That needs to be combined to become n. The -5 is not a like term because it doesn't have a letter, so it stays as -5. On the right-hand side, we have more like terms. This time we have a -8 and a -24. Both of those don't have letters, so we can combine them together to become -32. The -2n stays as -2n because it didn't have any other n's to combine with. That's called collecting like terms. Perfect. My goal now is to solve for n because I've gotten rid of the brackets. I'm going to move the -2n to the other side because -2n is less than 1n. The way that I move something is by doing opposite operations. So I'm going to move those n's by adding 2n because that's the opposite of minusing. That leaves me with 3n minus 5 equals -32. I then add 5 to both sides. That gives me 3n equals -27. Maybe use your calculator to do that one. And then divide both sides by 3. That gives me n equals -9. Like that. Awesome. F. If you want to pause the video right now, try F on your own, and then check to see if your work is done properly with me. Wonderful. Hopefully you did that. You paused the video and you've tried that. I'm now going to start F. Looking at F, the first thing I notice is that there's brackets. Brackets make things harder, so I need to get rid of those brackets by multiplying into the brackets. This time I'm multiplying -2 into those brackets, leaving me with 3 minus 18 plus 10n. On the right-hand side, I can multiply that plus 2 in, so that'll become plus 6n. Sorry, I don't want to do that in red. Plus 6n plus 14. A reminder that after you multiply, sometimes you get like terms. On the left side, I have like terms right there. So 3 minus 18 can be added together to become -15. Plus 10n, the n stayed out. On the right-hand side, I have like terms right here with my 11 and my 14. That adds together to be 25. And then the plus 6n remains plus 6n. Perfect. To solve this, I need to get all the n's on one side. I'm going to take whichever side has less n's and I'm going to move it to the other side. So subtract 6n from both sides. Leave me with -15 plus 4n equals 25. I'm then going to add 15 to both sides. That gives me 4n equals 40. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Meaning n equals 10. Wonderful. You should now go look at the practice booklets for this and try them on your own. All right, best of luck.